Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Before we start part 2 of documenting the apocalypse, I want to tell you about an incredible deal that Nutrient Survival is having from right now through Monday, the 27th of November. You can build your own bundle, ladies and gentlemen, and save 30% off of your order at checkout. So if you are in the market for stocking up on the best and most nutrient-dense freeze-dried food, period, check out the link on the description of the video and on a pinned comment. And remember to feed your freedom with Nutrient Survival. Because I do believe that the major crisis that will occur will be one in which they try to bring in a CBDC. Will be one into where our financial system will be in disrepair more so than what it is now. And that's why you must get prepared, because they have to have something happen that will make people want to give them even more power. Think about that. The government wants something to happen so that they can take advantage of it, so that it will make the people, we the people, ask the government to get more power over us. That's how it's always worked. So those of us that are awake to that can prepare for that and hopefully make it out the other side, you know, striving instead of just barely surviving. Let me tell you what it is that I think the dollar is backed by. All right. So every time that the national debt goes up $1 trillion, you're like, oh my goodness, the national debt is now 34 trillion, 35 trillion, whatever it is now, right? But it's not really the debt that matters. What matters is what is used to pay for the interest on that debt. Let me ask you, Gray, how do we pay the interest on the national debt?
How do you pay?
How do we pay it? How does the U.S. pay the interest on the national debt?
They can't.
Well, no, they do. They have to pay.
Well, I mean, other than our labor.
Exactly, our taxes. They tax us. So they take our tax money and they use part of it to pay the interest on the national debt. They have to pay the interest on the national debt, because if they don't, the dollar will collapse. They will default on the loan, right? It's just like if you had an interest-only loan, you know, for a mortgage. Have you ever heard of those interest-only loans for mortgages? If you don't pay your interest payment, what happens? You default, right? So the U.S. can have as much debt as countries are willing to loan it, but they have to pay the interest on their loan. So who is it that pays the interest on the national debt? We do. The U.S. citizens do, through our taxes. So what is it that really backs the U.S. dollar? In my opinion, is our tax dollars. The interest that we pay for the loan that we have is what really backs the U.S. dollar, our labor. Because if we stop laboring and we stop earning money, then who is the government going to tax in order to service the national debt? It is we that back the dollar. It is our labor that back the dollar. Because as soon as we stop paying that interest on that debt, we default.
Can someone explain exactly what is coming? Everyone says prepare, but no one is specific. I'm going to give you my perspective, and Rudy can add on to if you want. So what I mean by prepare on my channel specifically, or what I mean by I want people to get prepared, is I mean prepare from, like, if you lost your job. Let's say you have a food pantry that has, I don't know, 6 months worth of food, right? And you prepared it. You're preparing for whatever you're preparing for, right? You lost your job, and now you don't have the finances or the help to feed your family. So, but you have 6 months of food because you've been prepping. So now just something, because everybody loses their job one point in their life. I mean, it happens a lot. Or let's say something bad happens, like the pandemic or something like that, and you're kind of stuck in a certain position. You have food. Or if you live like where I live, hurricanes, or where Rudy lives, where there's, you know, blizzards and ice storms, and you're stuck in your home, having ways to heat yourself, having the proper medical equipment or medicines to suffice until things get better. There's so many reasons to prepare outside of what mainstream will tell you, or certain channels may say zombies, comets, asteroids, Yosemite, whatever they can come up with to get the clicks. Preparedness measures ensure the safety of individuals, families, and communities. Having a plan in place can save lives and reduce injuries during emergencies. Just think about that. So I'm very passionate about spreading the word of preparedness, because it helps folks get through crisis. You know what I mean? Be it that the crisis is small or the crisis is large. And worst case scenario, everything goes crazy. And at least you have some sort of sense of security with you and your family that you can get through that crisis.
Very good, man. Agreed. Hey, so another thing that we can hit on real quick, since we're talking about gold and silver, I still remember the numbers on gold that I did a few weeks back when I did this video. So the person that asked, what are we preparing for? So check this out. 5 years ago, I've been talking about gold and silver since I started this channel. So if you were listening to me 5 years ago in the year 2018, I was talking about gold and silver, right? And we've talked about the inflation that we've had here for the last year or two, right? Which has been, pretty dramatic for some people. Some people have really had to decline their standard of living because things cost so much more now. So check this out. If you all want, take out your calculators, ladies and gentlemen. I still remember these numbers pretty good. Back on January 1st or so of 2018, 1 ounce of gold was $1,283. Okay, 1 ounce of gold, $1,283. And today, an ounce of gold is, I'm going to call it $2,000 because I don't know exactly what it is, but it's probably like 1280. I mean, excuse me, 1980, 1990, something like that. But I'm going to call it $2,000. So if you take $2,000 and you subtract what gold cost back in 2018, which was $1,283, that gives you $717. That means that gold since 2018 has gone up in nominal terms by $717. Well, what does that mean, AP? Okay, so if you take that $717 and you divide it by the original price back in 2018 by $1,283, that gives you 55.8% increase in nominal price. That means that if you took $1,283 worth of your labor back in 2018, right? $1,283 worth of your labor back in 2018, and you put it into an ounce of gold, today you could take that same ounce of gold and still purchase pretty much the same amount of stuff that you can purchase with it back in 2018, because you have gone from $1,200, $1,283 to $2,000 in nominal value. It doesn't mean that you're getting more value out of that gold today. It just means that you're getting more dollars. Why? Because gold in the last 5 years has done exactly what it was meant to do, to protect your purchasing power. So that's what I mean about what am I getting ready for. 4 or 5 years ago, you could have started getting ready for the inflation that we're facing today and protecting your purchasing power by putting your excess wealth in gold and silver. And silver, it's the same numbers for silver. It's like 49, 50% increase for silver, whereas for gold, it's about 55, 56%. So that's what we get ready for here. We look at things that I like to call actionable intel. What can we see now that's happening that may affect our standard of living, our safety, our health, etc., 6 months down the road, a year down the road, 5 years down the road? I can tell you one thing for sure, ladies and gentlemen. I know that no matter what happens, this government has to continue to borrow money. No matter what happens, this government, in addition to having to continue to borrow money, has to continue to ask the Federal Reserve to tell the banks to print and print and print, therefore further devaluing our dollars. I can tell you that 100% sure, guaranteed, right? So what does that mean? That means that if you want to protect your purchasing power, if you don't want to allow the government to steal from you your wealth, your time, your labor, your freedom, then that you would put your excess wealth into a vehicle that is going to preserve your purchasing power and or the value of your time at that time that you purchase gold or silver or even a can of corn. Because a can of corn today compared to 5 years ago is probably 2 to 3 times as much.
100%. 100%. When you do cost analysis, it's ridiculous how crazy prices and shrinkflation. I mean, the products that you buy now are smaller and you pay more.
Every time that you hear about a carbon tax here or about the government wanting to subsidize A, B, or C so that we can go green. This is what a big scheme it is. I'm going to show it to you right now. But first, I'm going to ask you, I just want to know that I'm on the right track in thinking this. And I've talked about this before. Gray, if we've already spent as a world probably close to, if not more than $10 trillion in the last 10 to 15 years, as a world, the people, we the people of the world, have been extracted of about 15 or so, between 10 and 15 trillion dollars we have been extracted of in order to go green. Pretty much our governments have taken our money from us and said, we're going to use this 10 to 15 trillion bucks to go green. Would you think that after all of that money being put towards green energy, that maybe the consumption of oil around the world would maybe go down some?
You would assume. The funny thing is, Rudy, is that little tab below you that I put up is literally talking about what you're talking about.
All the way back in 2010, we were using roughly 4,000 million metric tons of oil worldwide. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I would think that after about 10 to 15 trillion dollars that have been put into green energy, that today we would be using less oil. Don't you think that makes sense? That after all of this money that has been extracted from we the people, after all these trillions of dollars, that it would have made a dent on how much oil we use as a world? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that right now we're using probably 10% more oil than what we were 10 years ago, 12 years ago. After all that money that they've taken from us, we're still using more oil. And yet people still don't understand that this has nothing to do with saving the environment. It has to do with transferring your wealth from your hands to someone else's hands. And it's normally a person's hands who doesn't need any more money. And by transferring your wealth to someone else's hands, it's taking away your sovereignty, ladies and gentlemen. So whenever you hear, oh, this windmill project here is being subsidized by this, these EVs, you know, electric vehicles are subsidized like $8,000 by the federal government. And who's that helping? That's helping the people that make six figures or more. Why? Because most of the people that buy EVs make six figures or more. So they're taking your tax dollars and giving it to the people that don't need them so that they can buy these EVs. It's a big scam, ladies and gentlemen. I love solar panels. You know that. I love solar panels. I love solar generator. I think they are a great addition to our grid, but not enough to run our grid. Solar panels, windmills, all of these green energy things that they're coming out with, that they're stealing our money to do, they will never power the world. They will never, ever, ever power the world, right? So you can take that to the bank. And it may take 5 years. It may take 10 years for me to be proven right. But in the end, I will be proven right. Unless they come out with some kind of technology that we've never heard of that can take a solar panel and say, oh, this one solar panel is gonna power your entire house if you just put one little watt hour or watt of light onto it. But yeah, those people that are proponents of this Green New Deal thing and think that they're gonna save the planet because they're gonna go with solar, those are the people that are going to be worst off, because they don't understand that they're going to need to be prepared more so than what we understand that we need to be prepared. So we're going to be prepared and they're not. And in the end, they're going to pay the price a lot heavier than what we are. But let's go ahead and take a look at this, Gray. What is it that I haven't looked at it yet.
All right. You want me to read it for you?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
It says the inflation in rail and road infrastructure projects is nothing compared to what is about to happen in the area of power generation. It is already diverting labor and resources from everyday necessities like housing, but there is a looming shortage of the components to make up the renewable energy and power networks. In addition, proceeding without adequate storage is going to increase the need for gas-fired power generation, which is only going to get more expensive because the government policy is making it difficult to start new gas projects.
Yep. And I've talked about this in length in previous videos, that there are companies that are putting off exploration for new oil, exploration for new gas, because the government is telling them, hey, Biden is telling people, hey, we're going to get rid of the fossil fuel industry. So if you were one of the fossil fuel industries currently, would you be investing money in new exploration projects when the president himself told you, hey, we're going to go ahead and make you obsolete? Absolutely not. You're not going to invest a penny in any kind of R&D, in any kind of looking for new oil or looking for new gas, none. So by the time that we figure out that we're not going to make it on green energy, it'll be so long down the road that they don't even have any more places to drill because they haven't been looking for any places to drill. People are going to wake up in a real hurry. These people that you see pasting their hands to the concrete, those people are going to be freezing, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you right now, make sure that you have a way. If you live in an area that is a cold area, like here in Alaska, make sure you have a way that in the very worst of times, you can protect yourself from the cold, right? What's one of the things that I do? I make sure that I always have a 3-year supply of what I use for heating. That way, if something were to happen today where I know that I'm not going to be able to replenish that for another 2 years, I know that I'm going to be able to make it 3 years. Again, it's about redundancy, and it's about taking a look at actionable intel that will tell you what's going to go on maybe a year or 2 or 3 years from now. But I guarantee you, and what Gray Man just read tells you yourself, that this green energy stuff, it ain't gonna work. Why? Because it's not working now with all of this money they're pouring into it, and it's not gonna work tomorrow, no matter how much money they pour into it.